Okay, so this week's Parsha is Parshas Chaye Sarah, which is the life of Sarah, but it speaks about the death of Sarah. Sarah died at 127 years old, and the way that the Torah tells us is it says she was 127, and the commentaries explain that her life was a life of perfection, just like at 100 she was like at 20 as beautiful, and just as she was full of, she had no sin at 20, just like a 7-year-old has no sin. So all the days of her life was perfect days. And the Medrash on this pasuk tells us, just like they are perfect, meaning just like these righteous people are perfect, so are their days, so are her days perfect. And it's an interesting thing to say. Just like she is perfect, so are her days are perfect. So we know she was perfect. We know she was a big tzaddikas. She did with Avraham. She went and the mission that they had of spreading monotheism to the world was a shared mission, and they both partook in it. Her home was always open on all four sides. We know that she was a very, very righteous woman. But what does it mean that just like she was perfect, so her days were perfect? Like, what is that trying to add to us? What does that add? If she's perfect, if she's a tzaddik, obviously her days are perfect as well, right? What's it trying to add to us?
All the tzedakah that she did?
So isn't that what a righteous person does? Like, doesn't that tell us she's a righteous person? So
maybe she was righteous to herself, but maybe the days were perfect, so she gave also, she did for other people.
Your read is brilliant. That's exactly correct. Brilliant. We're gonna go into that. Brilliant. Exactly. But you got it in a nutshell. So what this is what the Rebbe says, and this is what we're gonna explain, and that's exactly it. So before we get to that answer, there's some people who say, well, why is she written as the person, the paradigm of her days are perfect and she's perfect? What was so unique about her? And so some say, well, we know that she passed away early. Her life was cut short. Why was her life cut short? Anyone know? She was only
like 90.
She was 127, but
She
in those
did
days,
believe.
in those days, Avram lived till 175, right?
Was it because of the same reason?
No, was it because no?
She didn't believe,
She laughed.
it was
Because of
something
the
in
laughing.
belief.
Okay, we do see she laughed. We don't see any punishment for that laughter, so that's interesting. But it wasn't that. But it was something else.
Wasn't she so heartbroken that Abraham was about to sacrifice Yitzchak?
Exactly. So according to the commentaries, her life was cut short. She expired when she heard about Akedat Yitzchak, that Avram was sacrificing Yitzchak, her only son. The love of, we as Jewish mothers can totally relate to that. And some commentaries say she died because of sadness, because she heard that her son Yitzchak was being slaughtered on the Akedah. And others say she died out of joy because she was so happy that this was being done. So it depends which of the commentaries
She died that day?
She died that day, yes.
Wasn't it the
They were-
the
Satan
made like an image of it,
Yes.
showing Yitzchak on the altar, I think looking deceased.
Right.
And that's what did it.
So before they even came back, when they came back, she was no longer, which is like, again, so heartbreaking. Like here, Avram just surpassed the highest test in his life, the final test of his life, and yet he came back and Sarah was gone. His partner was gone.
Is there a commentary that says that she passed away from joy when he was not slaughtered, or
When he was not,
right?
that's not what I saw. I saw that she was joyous that Avram
That he did
succeeded
that,
in this
right.
test, which is again incredible. The life that we're talking about, the lives that they lived, it's just incredible lives. And like we said last week about the whole Mesirat Nefesh of Abraham, how he taught us, he gave that to us, that quality of living for a reason, living for a mission, living because this is God's will. So these levels are really incredible. But you see, like, despite the fact that he had just overcame his last test, the final test, he came back and his wife was not there. So it doesn't, when you think about the life is full of ups and downs. This is what life is all about. And the idea is how we get through these ups and downs. And this is the way we find out about it. So according to this commentary, we might think that since her life was cut short because of this incident, because of finding out about Yitzchak's supposed death, even though he didn't die, because of hearing about the Akedah, so either through joy or through sadness, so her life was cut short. So we might think if her life was cut short, her days wouldn't be perfect. Like all of her days were not filled. She still had what to do. She still had what to live for. And we're told, no, her days were perfect. So that's a simple meaning, but we can't really, like Irit says, we can't really understand that as the full reason, because that seems like a technicality, and why do we have to know? What does this have to do with us? We're not like on that level that our days, should they be cut short, God forbid, they would be perfect days. Like, what is it teaching us, the fact that she was perfect and her days were perfect? So in order to answer this, we also see about Avraham in this parsha, and in the last week's parsha it said zakeinim ba'im bayamim, or zakein. For Avraham it says zakein ba bayamim, which is a similar thing, that Avraham was zakein, and ba bayamim, he was advanced in years, he entered into his years. So what does this mean, these two qualities? And if we understand these two qualities, we can understand what Sarah had and what her life was all about, that she was perfect and her days were perfect. So what does it mean when Avram was zakein? What does zakein mean? Old.
We can tell him.
We can tell that he was old?
No, what it is to be old.
Oh, we can tell him to be old. So, zakein.
Thank you.
Yeah.
I never met anybody that was 75 years old.
Me neither.
Yeah, so he was old. He was definitely old. And yeah, we could say zakein ba bayamim. He was old and he looked old. He was advanced in years. He looked old, and some commentaries say that he was old and he looked old. Like there was this sage who became the head sage of the Sanhedrin. We talk about it in the Haggadah on Pesach. It says, "Harei ani keven shivim shana." He says, I am like 70 years old. He was only 18, but he prayed to look older because he was so young. Who would respect this young little schnook who's saying these important halachic answers? So he prayed to look older. So we might say, okay, Avram was old and he looked old, but how is that a praise? That wouldn't be something that we would, especially nowadays when we're running after youth and we do all these procedures to look young, that this would not be something that would be considered a praise for Avram. So let's understand, what does zakein and ba bayamim mean? So we said zakein means old, but in Judaism, the way that we look at old people, and this is what the Torah says, zakein, Rashi says on the word zakein, zeh kana chachma. That's how we look at old people. We don't look at old people as, oh, nebuch, they're so old. We respect age. We respect people. We respect our elders. We feel that it says that the non-Jews who believe in evolution look at the elder people and they say, okay, they're one more step in the chain of evolution. But we look at our elders and we say, they're one step closer to Har Sinai, to the receiving of the Torah. They're one step closer in that chain of receiving that Torah, that holiness of us becoming Am Yisrael. So we look at our elders with tremendous respect. We look at elders as Zeh Kana Chachma. This person has acquired wisdom. That's what a zakein means. So zakein, Avram was old. He was an old zakein. He acquired wisdom. And then what does it mean, ba bayamim? He entered his days. He was advanced in his days. So when we enter our days, what does it mean that we enter our days? It means we enter into the world, as you just said before. We enter into our days. Every day you're going into it, you're entering into it. Meaning, a zakein is somebody who is wise, who takes care of his spiritual nourishment, who tries to learn and study and develop. He's into his personal development, and that's how he becomes a zakein. That's how you become wise. You don't become wise by just, not learning or not studying. You have to work on it and work on yourself to refine yourself. That's what zakein means. He was working on himself as a tzaddik. He became personally refined. He advanced in his wisdom. But then there's the other part. There's ba bayamim. There's sometimes a person who is so wise but they're so busy being wise and studying that they don't enter into their days. They're so busy with their own personal refinement and personal development that they don't enter into the world. They don't enter into the world to help people, to be there for the world, to affect creation. Bayamim means he entered into the days, he affected the world, he affected creation, he affected those around him. And we know that Avram, of course, did that. He was a zakein, he was a very wise person, he understood things. When he was a young child, he already realized that God was the creator of this world, and he advanced in his knowledge of God, and he studied, and he really understood things. But then not only did he do that, but he also then went out and tried to affect creation.
Wow.
So you could have a person who's a tzaddik, who's a great person, but he's not involved in the world. He's involved in himself, he's involved in his own self-development, he's involved in looking inward and turning inward and growing higher and higher in his own self-fulfillment. He's still a tzaddik, but he's not bayamim. He's not entering into his days. He's not affecting creation, affecting the world. Avraham had the quality of doing both. And we see from this as well that Sarah had the same quality. What does it mean that she was perfect and her years were perfect? Same idea. She was perfect, that she was a righteous person. She had the qualities of personal development, working on herself, personal fulfillment. But then she also had the quality of entering into her years, of using her years for others and giving to others. And that...
Let me ask you something. You say only of a man, zakein bayamim. What do you say about women?
Well, the Medrash says, first of all, it says zakeinim ba'im bayamim. It says about both of them. They were both zakeinim ba'im bayamim, Avraham and Sarah. But the Medrash says by Sarah specifically,
Yes.
Kishem shehein tamimim, kach shnosam tamimim. Kishem shehein tamimim, just like she is perfect.
Tmimot.
Tmimot, that's true, it would be tmimot. Kach shnosaha tmimot. So her years were also perfect.
Okay.
So that it says about Sarah.
Yes, okay.
So this is the difference of quality, and this is something that we can learn from. This is a lesson that we all can learn from in our own personal development. So on the one hand, it's important to take care of yourself, because you can't give to others if you don't take care of yourself. You can't be giving to others if you yourself don't have the wisdom. So those moments that you are developing yourself, that you're taking care of yourself, that you're breathing deeply, that you're understanding what you're going through, that you're nourishing your inner world, is very important. But don't stop there. It has to then be as well the second step of entering into your years, of affecting the world, of affecting creation, of how you're giving to the rest of those around you. How, and truthfully, this part is the highest part. This is the most important part. You know, the personal self-fulfillment is important, but what we put the greatest emphasis on is how we affect creation, because we're here not only for our own development, but how we impact on others, the effect that we have on others. Now, a person could be a very righteous person with only one of these two things. A person could be a very righteous person, studying, learning, tremendous knowledge, but he's not necessarily affecting creation. And he's a big tzaddik. He's not doing anything wrong.
Is he tzaddik?
He is a tzaddik, because he's working in that level. He's working on, as long as he's not mean to other people, and he's
Not
you
me,
know.
but if he's only studying.
Well, if someone
doesn't-
comes to him, he'll do a thing, but he's not going out to others. You know, if someone comes to him and says, I need this favor, he'll do it, he'll give them. But he's not looking to help others. He's not looking to go out and to teach and to reach others and to affect creation.
You know what I was thinking? I'm sorry to interrupt. I was thinking about, you know, in Israel, all these yeshiva workers that don't want to go to the army. And on the other hand, there are some that goes and they study, and also they go to the army. Like, no, Lisa. Lisa Weber, son,
Right, sure, yeah,
also.
right. So that's a whole other conversation.
Okay.
It is, it
I'm
really is.
sorry.
No, and we could talk,
sorry.
no, we could
It
definitely,
just-
no problem, we could definitely
I
talk
need to
about it.
make up for all this weeks that I'm not here.
It's definitely something that we can talk about. Let's talk about
Okay.
it after the
No,
class.
no, that's okay. I'm sorry.
Because I just want to get,
Connie said more things down here. She just wanted to find it.
Well, it's not true. Most
so,
Yes, oh, okay.
the bark, I can't compete with that bark. So that is a righteous person, someone who's really into their own learning and developing, and they might be writing, taking care, like they master tremendous knowledge, and it's very important to have that knowledge as well, to have that knowledge in answering questions for people who might have them. And then there are some people who are just into the opposite. They're into affecting creation, doing for others, which is also, you could be a great tzaddik doing that, but they're missing that first part, that part of taking care of yourself, that inner development, that personal refinement, that working on yourself. So Abraham and Sarah had this dichotomy. They had both parts. They were perfect in both of these parts. And that is why they were the ones that usher in. It says our world is divided into 6,000 year periods. The first in the Jewish calendar.
Okay.
The first 2,000 years are called Al-Hayim Shanim Shel Tohu. The first 2,000 years of chaos. The world was chaos. It was chaotic. It was still chaotic, absolutely. Yes, but for a different reason why it's chaotic. The first 2,000 years were chaotic because there was no guidance. People were searching. We see the generation of the Mabul. They didn't know that there was God. We see the generation of Adam and Chava where they were cast out of the Gan Eden. There was no direction and learning in this world. We see Abraham came and he had to teach the world about monotheism, that there's one God, that there's a creator. There was a world where you thought there was so many different powers, which is what Avodah Zarah was, which was idol worship was that everything was powerful. The stone had powers, the sun had powers, everything had powers, and they were all fighting against, all these gods were fighting against each other, and they all had this power. Abraham was born in the Hebrew year 1948. And so he begins ushering in the next 2,000 years of Torah. We actually got the Torah in 2448 after we were in Egypt. 1948 was when Avram was born. 2448.
Also Israel was born 1948.
Yes, that's true. But that's the other calendar. But that's when we received the Torah. Avram ushered in that period of Torah because he taught Torah. He taught the ideas of Torah. He taught monotheism to the world. And it was specifically then we have the last 2,000 years, by the way, are the last 2,000 years of Acharit Hayamim, the end days. And that's why we have chaos, because we're getting ready for the time period of Mashiach. Now, that doesn't mean we wait till the year 6,000 for Mashiach. The year 6,000,
We're ready already. I think
we're
Yes,
totally
we're
ready,
ready.
totally ready. The year 6,000 is already, once Mashiach has already come and prepared the world for the next stage of after these 6,000 years, which is totally a different time period, a time period of Shabbat, where the world is going to undergo a lot of very different changes, miraculous changes. That'll be a very different kind of world than the world that we're living in. But the first 2,000 years is tohu, chaos. The second 2,000 years is Torah, and the next 2,000 years is Acharit Hayamim. And the chaos that we're seeing now is because the world is getting organized for this time period of Mashiach. The evil in this world is erupting now, and we're seeing it so strongly, and we're seeing such a division. It's like incredible. The division is so clear between good and bad, between evil and good. And you're seeing the evil is rising up because they're trying to get their last, on a metaphysical level, evil is trying to get its last hold on this world because it knows that its days are over and it's being snuffed out. It's going to be over. And that last little breath of life, it's like when you see like an animal, like a chicken, when you slaughter a chicken, you see like after the chicken is slaughtered, it's like it's moving as if it's really alive, like it's
There was
moving
no
so
other
much.
metaphor you could have used.
So yeah, it's moving so much because it's like its last breath. It wants to do as much bad as it could in its last breath. So that's what we're seeing right now.
How long is this going on?
How long is it? If we're already like, I mean, if you look at the days of what the days of the if you look at each day of the week as a day of, as a millennia, and Shabbos being the seventh day, right, which is a completely different time period, and the sixth day, which is what we're in, and you prepare for Erev Shabbat way before the last minute, and that's what we're in there right now. So Shabbat, Mashiach has to come now. We're already past all due dates.
Okay.
And this is the time.
We are
We're
ready.
experiencing that last little bit in the prophecies of what is supposed to be happening, like October 7th, unfortunately, was prophesized, and we're seeing
Yes.
it like on a different level, on a lower level, but we read about it on the, when it happened, on Simchat Torah. We read the Haftorah about
Yes.
that prophecy of what was going to happen. But we've done all that, like everything has been over with about, to get us to that point. But the point is that Avraham was able to usher in the 2000 millennia of Torah because he was a person who had these two dichotomies. He held them both. He was able to contain them both. It's hard to be a person who's working on their self-development and self-fulfillment, which is an inward mode, and also at the same time being perfect at your outer mode of giving to others and reaching out to others. It's a very hard balance. I mean, if we're thinking about it on a personal level, think about your day, thinking about your different time periods in your life. There's time when you have to just work on the inner mode and work on yourself and work on your own personal fulfillment and development and your own quiet and your own peace and your own breathing and your own fortitude. And then there are times when you really need to take that and give to the world. And there's times when you're doing both and you're trying to balance both. And it's a hard balance. It's a hard balance to have, but this is a balance that we all work towards. This is a goal that we work towards in all of our lives. So Abraham balanced both, and that's why he could usher in the era of Torah, because the era of Torah, what is Torah? It says Torah was given to this world to bring peace to this world. Duracheha darkei noam. Its ways are ways of softness, ways of pleasantness. Torah is supposed to bring peace between all of creation, because when you are focused on an end goal, you can have all the different parts. Each person can be their own unique self, but each person is being their own unique self towards the goal, that goal of unity with God, that goal of serving God, that goal of bringing godliness into our world. And when you have that goal, you have peace, because everyone knows their place in bringing about, using their talents, using their uniqueness to bring about that ultimate peace. But when you have chaos, when there's no harmony, when there's no vision, when there's no mission, when there's no understanding of our purpose in this world, that's when it's chaotic. That's when you cannot have that. So Avraham, who was a master of balancing the inner and the outer, this personal self-development, as well as going out and affecting the world, Avraham and Sarah were the ones who ushered in this time period. I want to just say something about these two qualities. I want to share a story that happened with my father. I told you many times that it was during the Shiva that we really learned so much, that I saw so much about who he was for his congregation. He was a brilliant person, a brilliant Rav, like a Gaon in learning, but it was during the Shiva that people were not talking about his brilliance in learning. And again, he was like answering all kinds of technical halachic questions all across the world, but it was the way that, what did people remember? It was the way he answered them, not the answer that he gave them, the way he answered them. So how are you? So how is the family? That extra wording. So that is an example of the zakein, of the working on your self-development, working on getting your brilliance, your zakein, zekana, chachma, your intelligence, your understanding, but then applying that knowledge to help others. How can I help another person? And there was one story that came to mind when I was like preparing this that I was thinking about is we heard during the Shiva there was another rabbi who came over to us, and he said, you know, I was having trouble with a woman in the community who wanted her mother to be cremated.
Oy vey.
Which is a horrible thing. Like it's a horrible thing that we do for the body. We believe the body is everlasting. The body is not ours. The body comes back alive. In the time period of Yemot HaMashiach, in Tchiyat HaMetim, in the resurrection of the dead. So this is not something that we Judaism is very against this last honor that we can give to our deceased. And her mother was already like close to that advanced stages towards her death was imminent, and the rabbi could not convince the daughter in any shape or form to not do a cremation, but to actually bury her. And he came to my father and he says, you know, I don't know what to do anymore. Like I talked to her, till I'm blue in the face, telling her all about the body and all about, you know, the holiness and all that. And she's just not responding. She's totally against it. And my father says, well, why is it that she wants to cremate her mother so strongly? And he said, well, because she says to me she wants to have some kind of something to hold on to. She wants to have those ashes in her home, something that she can, physical, that she can hold on to and take with her wherever she goes. And because of her love for her mother, she wants to have that with her. So my father said to the rabbi, tell the daughter, ask her if she can braid her mother's hair. Her mother had very long, thick hair. Braid her mother's hair and cut off the braid. And if she has that braid all the time with her, will she feel that connection to her mother? And the rabbi went out and asked her, and she was fine with that. She was like, she felt that was such a good idea. This way she can always hold on to her mother's braid and always have it near her. But I say that example as an example of, this is a way of zakein, wisdom, and halachic authority, but not just the wisdom, but understanding what another person needs, understanding what another person wants, affecting, helping, empathy for another person, bayamim, entering into your days to affect other people. And what's interesting about bayamim is entering into your days is that our days are constantly changing, right? Day changes. Like now it gets dark so early, right? It was, by the way, kudos to all of you who are here on this very dark, very cold, very windy evening.
Yes.
I was like, really? Are we having the class today?
We're getting with snow, I think.
Well, Toronto already had snow.
Yeah.
Oh, really?
Yes.
You live in the south.
Yes, I mean, yeah, Dana, remember when he was up there, it always snowed earlier.
Yes. So days go, what is it about days? Days are changing. There's summer, there's winter, there's constantly stages, there's constantly changes. And this is also teaching us something about how we enter into our days. The way that we approach our days is the things that are hardest for us to change about ourselves. Those are the things that we need to do. In other words, you might be trying to affect creation. You might be trying to affect the world. You might be trying to make an impact on this world, but you might only want to do it in the things that you're good at, the things that you like doing. You know, you might be a very charitable person. It's easy for you to give charity, but maybe you're not a person who likes having guests in your home. You know, maybe you don't like that. Or maybe you're good with giving. Can you think of an example? Right?
No, I'm trying not to make eye contact.
I'm good with that.
Or maybe you're really a very nice person. You're ready to give the shirt off your back, but you're not really so patient when it comes to like listening to somebody, listening to them talk and really empathizing with them. And bayamim means to us, the way that we understand it is just as life is about changes, it's also about our own personal changes. We need to work on ourselves so that we can also change. We can't just say, I'm just going to work on the things that I'm good at. Maybe most of the time you're working on the things that you're good at and you do the mitzvot that you enjoy, that's great. But a little bit has to also be directed to the things that are hard for us to do, the things that are hard for us to change. Because it's sometimes particularly in those things that we might have been created for, that we might have come down to this world for, to change those part of ourselves. That's the part that's so hard for me to do. That's the thing that's so challenging. And, you know, I know me personally, like there's certain things that are so easy for me to do that other people are like, wow, I can't believe you're doing it. And for me, that's like easy. But I know that's not the thing I should be doing. The thing I should be doing may be the thing that's very easy for other people, but for me comes so hard. You know, like maybe picking up the phone and making calls, which I hate making calls. Maybe that's the thing that I have to do, right? Maybe that's the thing that I have to work on. Because each of us are different, each of us are born in a different way, each of us are unique in our abilities, but in bayamim means how you affect the world, even in the things that are difficult for you to do, even in those things that are hard for you to do. So that is where we see that they really excelled in both of these. So, So when we are going into this world, when we are affecting this world, when we're affecting creation, when we're like Avram and Sarah, they went out and taught the world, they had so many students, so many people who converted, so many people who were thousands and thousands. They were like spokespeople for the world. And sometimes when we're doing that, it's very hard to stay focused on who we are. And that's why, by the way, you need the zakein. You need to be very strong in your own self-development and personal development. But sometimes it's very hard when you're going out there and making change and making people, teaching people, how are you not affected by others? How are you not affected by the world? And I had this interview with a psychologist. Her name is Yehudas Carbell, which is going to be next week. We're still doing yours, Karen, don't worry, but it hasn't come yet. We're behind, but we're gonna get there. So I interviewed this psychologist, and she was speaking about the difference between horizontal living and vertical living. And I thought it was a very good expression because it really teaches you the difference between the two. Horizontal living means that you're looking at everyone around you and you're getting approval from everyone around you. And that's what gives you the strength to continue on. It's when someone tells you that you're great and when someone tells you that you're doing this so amazing, you're looking at everyone. Your living is horizontal. I'm looking towards everyone for my approval. And only when I get that approval can I continue on, can I continue doing what I need to be doing. Vertical living is when you're focused on God and God alone, when you're focused on your mission, your purpose, when you're focused on why I'm here, what I'm going to be achieving in this world. When my life is not, my principles are so strong that it's not everyone around me that pulls me in this direction or that direction, but I'm vertical. I'm aligned with my mission, I'm aligned with my purpose, I'm aligned with who I am as an individual. And the horizontal tugs are not going to change the way I think. And we see this as a description of Sarah because it says, when the angels, if you remember, came to Abraham in last week's Torah portion, they came to announce the birth of Yitzchak. And they say, where is Sarah? Abraham had just recovered from his Brit Milah, and they say, where is Sarah? And they want to give the news that she's going to have next year, the following year, when she was 90 years old, she's going to have a baby. And Abraham says, hinei baohel. She's in the tent. And this really became kind of like a description of Sarah. Hinei baohel. She is somebody who is in the tent.
How do you say? What did you say?
Hinei, behold, baohel. Hinei, hey nun, hey.
Hinei is...
Here she is.
No, you don't use it.
Hineni.
Hineni is ani.
Okay, so hinei, she is, baohel. She's in the tent.
Maybe it's biblical Hebrew.
Right, could be biblical,
okay.
yes, exactly.
Okay.
So she's,
Thank you, honey.
yeah, thank you, honey. she's in the tent.
Okay.
And what does it mean she's in the tent? Like, this became kind of a description of Sarah. She's in the tent. And does that mean that Sarah was just hidden in the tent? No, because we know she was at Avram's side. Just like he was teaching, she was teaching. As he was converting the men, she was converting the women. She was teaching and changing the world, affecting creation. So what does it mean, hinei baohel? She is in the tent. And I think what it's teaching us is she's in the tent. She's strong in who she is. Her presence in the tent, her presence of who she is so strong. She knows her center. She's living that vertical life where she's not convinced by everybody else, but her ohel, her tent, is who she is. Her tent is very solid. Her tent is very firm. She knows her principles. She knows her mission in life, and she's not persuaded by the horizontal living of everyone around her.
Wow.
And that's why it says in Tehillim, Kol Kvuda Bat Melech Penima, which means the honor of the daughter of the king, the kavod, the honor, the dignity of the daughter of the king, which is all of us. We are all the daughters of the king, we're daughters of God. Pnima is inward. And what it is not saying is that a woman needs to be in the tent or in the house, in the kitchen, cooking, locked up. No one should see her. That's not what it's saying. But what it is saying is the honor, the dignity of a woman is her pnima, is her pnimiot, is her inwardness, is her ability to stay true to her inwardness. And when she's able to stay true to her inwardness, when she's establishing her ohel, her home, in the principles and the mission that she wants, when a woman is able to do that, it affects everybody around her. She's the center. And when she's able to remain centered, that is when the ohel, the home, becomes permeated with holiness. The ohel becomes permeated with kedusha, with God's light and God's presence. When she has that pnimiot, when she has that inwardness, that she is not living a horizontal life, but she's living a vertical life, then she is an example to everyone around her, and she affects everyone around her.
She's vertical, but on the other hand, she ignores what are their surroundings.
No, the opposite. When you are so principled and you know what you're doing and your
Yes.
mission in life,
Yes.
that's when you can go out and teach everybody. When you're wishy-washy and you don't know, maybe I'll do this, maybe that, you're not sure about your own principles, you're not sure about your value, you're not sure about your worth, you can't go out and affect the world because you're swayed by the world. When you're solid in who you are and you understand solidly, you're connected to your inwardness, to who you are as a person. When you know who you are as a person and you're strong in that, that's when you can affect all of creation. But until you have that solitude and that strength and that knowledge of who you are and that ability to be true to yourself, you can't affect anybody. Even your children you can't affect. All the more so the rest of the world. But when we have that pnimiut, when we have that hinei baohel, she's establishing the home, how it should be, that's when you could bring everyone into your home and you can go out to everybody. And that, I think, is really an example of what Sarah is all about. Because the same psychologist that I was speaking to is Yehudis Karbel, which you'll see next week. This week we have Yitzchak Muli. If any of you went into art, he's great interview. Great art. I love all the colors and but next week, so another thing that's
He came, yeah.
You were there. Like screen art, right?
Right.
In the shul, he was in the shul.
Yeah.
Yeah, I remember that. Yeah, it was wonderful.
Yeah,
You also
So-
saw Halibik also. Huh?
So if you want to know how he got into the art, how he got into doing it all, and what he thinks about his art, how he uses his art to visualize greatness and spirituality in this world, listen to the interview. But next week's interview, she talks about how really a child starts off being dependent we're all dependent. We start off dependent on everyone. A child can do very little on their own. We can't eat on our own. We can't, everything that we are doing, a baby is very dependent on others. We then advance, and by the time we're school age, we're codependent, where we're dependent on others, what others think of us. We're still in that stage of learning, getting approval from others, getting approval from our teachers, getting approval from other students around us. We're supposed to advance from that codependence to interdependence, where you're not really looking for others' approval, but you're working kind of side by side. That's what we're supposed to advance to. And ultimately, we're supposed to go on from interdependence to independence, where we are able to be completely on our own, where we don't need other people even in our lives. She says, unfortunately, most of us get stuck at that codependent stage and we don't get out of it. Where we're so codependent on what everyone else is saying, what everyone else is thinking, what everyone else is doing, that we don't have that vertical living, but we're so into the horizontal living of what everyone else is doing. And the example that Sarah and Abraham, of course, but even more so Sarah, because it's the woman who is the mainstay of the home, the woman who sets the tone in the home. What she gives us is that ability to be centered into yourself. The zakein, the working on your personal development, but still going out and teaching others and affecting creation. But we can only do that when we have the hinei baohel, that firmness, that developing of ourselves and our principles solidly in our homes, in ourselves, that pnimiyut, that inwardness, where we know who we are, where we know what we're all about. Then we can then go out and really go into the world and affect creation. And we do see at the end of this week's Parsha, we see this with Rivka as well. It says that Yitzchak brought her into his mother's tent, and the same miracles that happened in his mother's tent, the same spiritual qualities that his mother had, she exemplified that. And we see before that, how was she chosen to be the wife of Yitzchak? Because of her acts of kindness, because of her going out. Bayamim, using your kindness to help another person. Going out to give the water to somebody who couldn't, for whatever reason, could not, from the well. Not only giving Eliezer the water, but giving also his animals. And this was the quality that showed her kindness and her going out. You're using her ability of bayamim, going into each day, going into each encounter, and seeing other people and saying, what do other people need? Not only thinking about yourself, but thinking about others as well. So the challenge of this week is the balance that we have, the balance that we can use in our lives, those times when we need to work on our own personal development and think inwardly, and to really get our lives the solitude that we need for our lives, the peace that we need in our own lives, the breath in, but at the same time, the bayamim, going into each day, making sure each of our days, even those days that challenge us to go out of our comfort zone, to go out of what we're good at, that challenge us to push ourselves that little bit, to help another person in a way that we might not be so comfortable, but to enter our days, to enter each of our days, to make them count. And that balance is something that we work on throughout our lives, and we should be working on it all our lives, but that is the balance that life is really all about.